Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for turning up to our session for Moodle for Beginners. My name is Tom Langston, and with me is Mike Wilson. We have both used Moodle now for many years, Mike longer than I have, and in a much greater capacity than me, knowing all the clevery back-end bits, which, again, do not worry, we're not going anywhere near today. What I've done is created this Nearpod. So for those who have just joined, if you can't see it in the chat, please just message and we'll repost the code. But if you can go to nearpod.com/student or join.nearpod.com, log in with the code that you should be able to see up at this part of the screen. Again, it's in the chat. It's ULSXO. I can see I've got 2 people at the moment. There will be, like I say, a hands-on element through this. So if you can sign in and use another internet browser for it, it will be fine. Otherwise, it doesn't matter, but it just depends on how hands-on you'd like to maybe get while doing this. While you are signing in, and again, if you get stuck, please just post in the chat and either Mike or myself will help with this. I wanted to start by asking a question of, I would consider my understanding of Moodle as I'm an expert, intermediate, novice of little confidence and never used it. I have a rough feeling where I think people are going to put themselves. I can tell Mike's joined in because there's expert confident. I was like, who turned up to a beginner session? Oh wait, the other guy that's presenting. We've got 10 seconds left on this. Lovely. If I share that to your device, we should roughly see that most people are in the B and C category. Mostly people are novices, some with maybe an intermediate level of confidence, and one person who's never even used it. So hopefully what we can do today is work through some basic features of Moodle and what, again, it's going to be going forward. What you can see on screen at the moment is the login screen for Moodle. Whenever you go to moodle.port.ac.uk, you'll see a login box very similar to this, where you'd enter your standard username and password. So in this case, Lankstot is my name, and then my password is hidden. Nice try. What you do then is log in, and Moodle will show you whatever you have on your site. So as you can see, some people may only have 1 or 2 sites, depending on what access you've been granted. And Moodle currently will show you what you are enrolled on. It won't show you everything that you might need to see. And again, depending on your role will depend on what access you have within those sites and those courses. So this one behind you, behind the front one there, has got a lot more courses on it for you to interact with and do. I'd kind of like to bring Mike in here a little bit to explain the Moodle baseline. But this is part of the theme and the sort of template going forward. So Mike, if you can say a few words.
So the Moodle baseline is the standard information that kind of outlines your Moodle modules. It's supposed to match up quite tightly with the module web search. So automatically, the module overview will be drawn in from module web search along with the learning outcomes that have been agreed for the module. You can add a friendly welcome message. As you can see in Tom's screenshot, we really encourage you to put, record a little video in there and add some text just to welcome students to your module, just in an overall way. The resources tab was previously just reading lists, but that will also include study skills materials, wellbeing resources aimed at students, so they'll be automatically added for you, and any reading list that you've added to your module will bubble to the top so students can find those easily. It also has guidance about how to add reading lists and how to contact your faculty librarian. The assessments tab is kind of a key piece of kit as students previously struggled to find those summative assessments on their modules. We encourage staff to tag their assessments with the summative assessment tag, and that means if it's hidden down in topic 13, way down the module, it's automatically bubbled to the top of the page, so students can find it very easily, along with the weighting for that assessment, the due date, and the submission status for the student as to whether they've submitted or not yet. And that's what the baseline is.
Thank you very much. And again, we'll see this in a live Moodle unit in a moment as well. So the Moodle template going forward, Mike and the Act Dev team have worked very hard recently on producing kind of a template structure of how for the blended approach. And again, you've probably seen this through the conference. And have you got another one of those sessions this week, Mike? If not, I know the recordings are up now, but
we have one more, which is tomorrow morning. It's either 9 or 10 o'clock, but it's on the calendar. Yes, one left and available.
Yeah, so Mike and Amy are talking through how the Moodle template was designed, created, and how you can use that to distribute your learning materials going forward with the next teaching block. So this should be for you a website. So if I click it, it should load automatically into the UOP module preview. So you can now see in a live tab, and I'll look to Mike to nod or confirm or deny whether it's working. It is working. Perfect. So I am obviously showing this off at the moment as me. However, you are able to look at it on your own within your device. And this is the module preview that I took the screenshots from. So you can see I did the welcome video for that, and then Mike's got his video about what is marketing, and then Stuart, who's helping team teach the unit, takes on ethics and sustainability, and it's just showing how you can break up the material and work through that. So the Moodle basics, what we're going to do in a moment is, and I will post it to the chat in case you're not within the Nearpod and still want to take part, but hopefully it should all work as it has at the moment. But I've made a site called the Moodle Sandpit. It's a training site where essentially you can get your hands dirty and not worried about breaking anything that's in there. It is just a test site for everybody. And there we go. So you should be able to enter. You may need to self-enroll to this site, and that will just mean when you click into it, there will be a button at the bottom that says enroll me, and you should get into here. Yes, Mike?
Just to say, when you move on to the next slide, if it doesn't incorporate that website, it does close it. So when you've showed the previous site, it appears in a separate tab for me, which I was able to use. But then when you move on, it disappears again.
Yes.
So, yeah, worth knowing.
Yeah, that's slightly off topic of Moodle, but yes, that's one of the good features of Nearpod as an audience response feature, which is you can share a website, but so they don't keep it open, and so they don't start looking at other things on the web. You are controlling what you are showing and what you want them to see. So obviously I had that, I got rid of it, I don't need that one anymore, and now we're on to the one where people can get their hands dirty. So this is that kind of point where I can talk you through my normal traditional basic session, but I thought what would be more useful is for people to get their hands dirty, but also in that point, ask questions of me, ask questions of Mike, maybe in the chat, or unmute yourself. What do you find troublesome in Moodle? What would you like to know? While people sort of maybe put some stuff in, I will show for the person that they've never used Moodle before, I'll do a very quick overview here of what we're seeing on screen and then start to pick up the questions as they come in. So before I turn editing on, within a Moodle site, you have these spaces down the middle called topic spaces. And the topic spaces are where we house the content for that particular unit. Now, if you just come into the unit without turning editing on, you can see it, you just can't do anything. It's kind of a read-only version of the Moodle site. So to make any changes, I'd need to click editing. So you should all have, when you get in, and if you don't, please let me know, you should have, by coming in the way we've come in today, the option to turn editing on, which will then load up all the icons that I can see, like add an activity or resource. What you'll also now notice is as I scroll down again, there is an add an activity or resource within every single topic space. And what this means is you can add content directly into a certain area without having to worry about moving it later. So when I first started using Moodle, I just click the first one I saw, have a whole load of stuff in the topic space, and then have to move it. And you kind of realize, hang on, that's not very efficient. What I can do is scroll down, and again, saving yourself efficiencies here, under Site Sections, that's a drop down, and I can jump directly to the topic I want to use. And there's my add an activity or resource for that particular week and within that particular topic space. There it is. So if I do add an activity or resource, Moodle is broken down into two sort of categories, activities and resources. Activities are the sort of two-way street where you're expecting a student to participate in some form. So with an assignment, for instance, they're participating by uploading a file to get marked as part of that process. The forum tool is where you're expecting some dialogue to happen, a discussion to take place. Down in the resources section, that is the one-way street, essentially the old-style paper handout. So what you would do is you'd be giving them the information, they read it, and they do it. Now, the book kind of blurs those lines, being that we can add stuff now inside the book so that they would do a bit of a two-way street of learning within that. And again, Mike may like to mention sort of the knowledge check idea that we're looking at the moment. But that would essentially be using something like H5P to create the interaction, and then we put it inside the Moodle book. There, I will show very quickly two things and then get to the questions that are coming in here. And the two I'm going to show you today are the longest way around uploading a file, which for me is the best practice to show you what all the settings mean. I will then show you how everyone actually uploads a file, and you'll do that going forward. But if I click File and Add, I'm going to call this week 1 learning slides. Now, description, if I don't put anything in the description, it doesn't matter. The student won't see that unless I tick that button there. There is an expected study time, which if I drop that down, could be as short as 5 minutes to over 4 hours for that sort of particular activity. So for them to look through my sort of PowerPoint slides, I reckon that's going to take them about sort of 30 to 45 minutes. I'll give it 45 minutes, and if it's shorter, then actually that's going to be a lot quicker for them. And here's where I select the file. So I choose Add, upload a file, choose a file. I'm not going to want that one, so D, document, click upload, a PDF, and upload that. I can now click either Save and Display or Save and Return to Course. These appear pretty much on every single other activity in Moodle, and if you don't know what they are, Common Module Settings allows you to do group stuff, but you don't have that within Resources because you don't need to create groups. I can cover that in the more advanced session tomorrow. Tomorrow, if people are interested in groups and things. But there are 3 states to it: show, hide, and make available but not shown. And again, it sounds more confusing than it is, but essentially the student won't see it directly in a topic space, but the URL will still be live if you give it to them in another way. So again, you could make it a hyperlink within a PowerPoint, and they could click it and go to that particular resource. But again, Common Module Settings doesn't really relate to resources. It's more to do the activities. And restrict access allows you to add restrictions by dates, grades, groups. And Mike has talked in our sessions this week about how you might want to restrict content until they've done a knowledge check activity, and that would be using the restriction of a grade on another activity that's taken place. I'm not going to set any restrictions. I'm going to save and return to course. And there it is. So my week 1 learning slides, going to take 45 minutes, and then there is the description, which again you don't have to type in unless you want to. Now you may have seen these icons suddenly appear, and it's like, what do they mean? These first two here are from Blackboard Ally. The orange one tells me, as I hover over it, the accessibility score is medium. And if I click it, it will explain how I can improve that accessibility for all users. In things like PowerPoints, it's usually adding alt text to slides and to images in that. And in this case, it says there's missing image description, so there you are. Pubs. Everyone remembers what a pub's like, right? And then you also have alternative formats where you can download it for things like screen readers, audio files, and electronic braille. So we can make things now very accessible. Now, the student doesn't see the first one. That's only for you as the academic or tutor on a course. However, the student will see this one, and they can download things in alternative formats. So that's kind of the longest way uploading a file. If I get a browser up and get a PowerPoint here, so Denise's Learning Well one from yesterday, if I drag and drop that, there you go, it's uploaded. So drag and drop is the quickest way to add something to Moodle. The reason I show the longest way first is if your file name doesn't make any sense, then actually you may need to change the title. And again, I can do that by clicking the pen icon for edit title. Return, and it will save that and change the title. And the other reason I show the sort of longest way around uploading a file first is for the fact that at the moment this got uploaded to a live Moodle unit. It will not be hidden to the students. So if you need something to be restricted or hidden to start with, you need to do it the longest way to be able to set that restriction before uploading it and it appears as live. I can change it through edit settings, and going back into the interface you saw a minute ago. But all the time I'm doing this until I click save, it is going to be live to the students. The second thing I'm going to show you, which is how to create a book resource, which is again what Mike and the team have worked on heavily in terms of how to structure and build content recently. And so for those that don't necessarily know, if you do add an activity or resource, book, and add. So again, this can be my week 1 learning materials. And this is going to take a little bit longer. So this is going to take 90 minutes because it's going to have a lot more content within it. I'm going to save and display this time. So I'm going to add introduction materials. And this is where I type in. And again, within this, I'm now able to add other things. So again, what I could do is that would be my content, but actually I might have a heading. Using the pen or the droplet styles icon, I could add an introduction, or I could just add a box. Mike, can I ask for the advice on using these like main headings that would be in the topic spaces within books? Is that something you've been promoting or not?
If you scroll to the bottom of that list, you've got those. So the ones at the bottom are the activity level ones, so within books and quizzes and things. And the ones at the top are the module level ones, as you see within the template. You can use those. You can use either in a place if you want to, but they were really designed to working that way, so that the headings on the course page and the bottom kind of fit more naturally in the spaces. But it's up to you really.
Using Mike's guidance there, if I want to make this heading a heading but not use this icon here, the A has a paragraph style where I can use a heading. So if I give it a heading, it's making it accessible on the web so that a screen reader would know that it's a heading. Although it reads heading, that could obviously be absolutely anything, and it would be a delineator for a screen reader to know what that kind of content is. I can type in information. I can do unordered lists. And I know obviously 1, 2, 3, 4 is an order. but then there are also ordered lists which auto number for you as well. You can add hyperlinks, so please read this. And again, when you add a hyperlink, you can do one of two things. If I click on the icon there, which is that piece of chain link, if I click that, I can either put in a, excuse my typing, open in a new window and create link. So it's made a hyperlink that's going to go to the Portsmouth website. However, if you wanted to go to a document, you can't drag and drop a file in here like I just mentioned within a topic space, but what I can do is make a hyperlink. So again, click the link icon, do browse repositories and use the upload file. And just like I did a moment ago, there's an introduction to Moodle, upload this file. Again, it will upload it into the back end of Moodle. And so there's a hyperlink to a website, but you can also create a hyperlink to a document. So you can add a document inside of a book as well. And once you've finished that page, you can save changes. What you'll then have within a book is the page you made. In this case, it doesn't look particularly appealing because I didn't add any color in, I didn't add any images or videos. If I wanted to change that, I'd click the cog icon there to edit this particular section of material. I could delete that section. I could hide it, so it doesn't hide the entire book, but it hides just this window, or the plus, which allows me to create a new chapter and add more content. So if I do video, I need to move my participant window at the moment. Here's one I prepared earlier. Copy and paste in a YouTube link and save that. It will automatically then make it a hyperlinked video. And there we have a video on how to use the Moodle template. I can keep going through creating resources. Now, the bit I didn't do, which is a faux pas on my part, was to kind of where we set in the creation of the book, it's going to be about 90 minutes. Obviously, that's for the entire book, not for every single section of that. So what I think would be a good idea and a best practice, and again, Mike, please correct me if you're telling people differently. What I would suggest is where you do your title, at the end of that, just write 15 minutes. And then save it so that what you'll get then is inside the book, the student will have a rough guide of how long any section of content is going to take them while they're creating that. So while the whole book might take 90 minutes, they can come in and see that certain videos are going to be 10 minutes and activities 5, and they can then sort of work through that material either in a linear fashion from top to bottom or pick the bits that they need at that particular time. So that's kind of the the real basic two things of uploading a file and using a Moodle book. Is there anything that's come up in the chat that you've seen, Mike, that maybe would be worth demonstrating for people?
Anne had a question about the difference between save and display and save. What's the save display? Return to course. Sorry. So it might be worth just. I've explained it in the chat, but it might be worth just kind of showing what that means in practice.
No, absolutely. So if I add an activity resource, again, doesn't matter what. So I'll do a page this time. The difference between a page and a book is the page is not as structured. The book allows for chapters. The page is for one kind of piece of information. So if I do page and add this, back. This is a page. Now, don't do what I always do with a page. Unlike the book, you had the description and then we clicked save and display and we moved on and we started to add content to the book. Within a page, the content is directly here. I have on many training sessions put all my information in here.
Yep.
Gone down to save and it's gone no. And the reason being is that's not the content, that's the content. Mike's agreeing. It's one of those bits that even the best of us do far often than we care to admit. So it goes in the content. So the difference here, Save and return to course will take me back to that topic space, the main area where I'm able to see the breakdown of all the content throughout the weeks. Save and display takes me directly into that resource. So in this case, because I've got a page called This is a Page with information in, save and display will take me directly to that. If, however, I do that again and do save and return to course, that's when it pops me out into the main topic space and I can see this is a page. Now, the reason the book's slightly different in this respect is once you've created a page, it's probably going to look roughly how you'd expect. So you just save and return to course. You don't need to see it. But to create the information within a book, if I do that again and do this, so I'm going to create another book. Now, I don't need anything in the description. And as I say, there's no content here. If I do save and return to course, the book's been created, but there is no content in it. Now, to create the content, I can click in here, and it takes me to this side. However, the quick way around that is that save and display option. So again, if I make another book to show that, add an activity or resource, book, again, and so this time I'm choosing save and display. It takes me straight into the content and I can start editing and saving as I go. So now when I save changes, it's not saving and displaying or saving and returning into course. It's all just about creation within that book resource for me to add things to. And again, I can leave the book and come back at any point and get other content and go from there. Mike.
And while you're there, can you show Rob how to edit a chapter of a book once you've saved that chapter? Can you just show him the icon for that?
Yes, of course. So I've created my first page, and as always, my fat fingers, I've got terrible spelling mistakes. Makes no sense to anyone. I think we need to amend that. So to change that, I have the cog icon here. If I hover over that so you can see it on screen, there's edit chapter. So if I edit that chapter, it'll take me back to the edit window we were just in. And now I'm going to get into a slightly more advanced bit, but just to kind of show things you can do. We're using Nearpod today. So what I'm going to do is get the Nearpod for this session, which is Moodle for Beginners. I'm going to choose Student Paste. Now it gives me a time. It's 29 days remaining, but I can make it all the way up to a year by clicking through the calendar. But for today, I don't need that. I'm then going to choose Embed. And have a large, you can do large, medium, or small. Copy that. So again, inside my Moodle book, what I'm going to do is use this icon here to drop down all the other features. Now, I haven't gone over this yet, so I'll come back to it. But at the end, there is HTML. I'm just going to paste that in. And again, unless you're Mike, you don't need to understand what any of that means, because I know I don't. Click Save Changes. And now within my book, I have a Nearpod lesson embedded within it. So the student can work through a student-paced Nearpod. Now, for those people that have used Nearpod before, you can obviously, just like you would upload a PowerPoint, you can embed the complete lesson in there. The way I'm advocating Nearpod, especially at the moment, is for these kind of, like Mike mentions, those knowledge check activities. You take one or two activities within Nearpod, and then you can embed them within a Moodle book so that they work through and have lots of different types of content within the same sort of environment. They're not having to jump in and out of lots of different things. Obviously, by doing a large one, it takes up a large amount of screen. A small one is much more neat and tidy. So I now click plus to add a new chapter. And there you go. You can add more. And again, terrible spelling. I could go back in and edit it. So I'm going to go in and edit it to show you the next feature. Well, just before I jump in, there are now arrows. Obviously, these arrows here allow me to move stuff up and down. So Tom's amazing page of content, actually, it's too early in the book. I need Durgi at the top. So I'm going to move that up. So that's now the first page the student would see when they came into the book. If I edit that page again, as I say, the top left icon here, if I hover over that, it says Show Hide Advanced Buttons. Within that, there is other features. So there I can insert or edit an image. Insert or edit an audio or video file. Manage files. Now again, with that one, we will we are getting Panopto. At the moment, it's not there, but there will be a Panopto button, I believe, within Moodle to create content, so that actually it's hosted in a stable place, it's easily catalogued, and it'll be done to your user ID. So you can create content for you directly in Moodle using Panopto without having to worry about these other ones here, there, and everywhere. You also have, like you would do in Word, underline, strike through, different formatting options. And again, I don't use Word that much to know what these mean. So chances are you know more than I do in that. But essentially, if you want to use it like a bit like a word processing document, you can indent and outdent text. There is an equation editor. And again, for those that know me, know that this is now all Greek to me. He goes to the Greek symbols to make the joke even funnier. But you can add in a whole range of other different equations if you're doing mathematical or technical subjects. You also have a table which you can use to create sort of like almost spreadsheet-esque things. So it's like any tabular data you want to create within Moodle, it will do that for you. So it's very, hopefully it's a very simple interface in that respect. And I think some of the best features now come under the drop down here. What I'll do very quickly actually is show you a few little bits that I found. And again, Mike, please do kind of jump in at any point here. I want them to do a bit of reading. So I'm going to scroll down and choose reading as an icon. So please read Jones and Jones. And I, again, maybe using a hyperlink, add in a link to the journal or the reading list, or however you might want to do that. Now, there's two things here. One, if I hit return on my keyboard, it drops down and creates another box of exactly the same. And I don't want that. What I wanted to do is put another line about other things I want them to read. To do that, I press the Shift key, press and hold it, and then hit return. And it does, is it called a soft return, Mike? I'm getting a nod of yes, it is. So, and also Smith and Jones. So I've now done the bits I want them to read and want to add something different in. As I say, when I hit return, it will automatically add another box in. To get rid of this, without having to worry about the dreaded HTML editor, if I go back to the iDroplet, scroll back to the top, I can choose no style. And is that the way to do it, Mike? Am I doing the right thing there? Yeah.
Yes, you can press backspace as well, just to delete that and go back up. That does it as well. But yeah, the no styles is a good way of teaching it.
Yeah, for me, the only reason I say that is because when I do the backspace, it takes me back into the other box. It doesn't leave me outside of that. So if again, I'll demonstrate that. And again, if I'm doing it wrong, please do. So this is a video. No, that's not a video. But if I hit return and click backspace, it jumps me back into that box. I'm still in there.
Ah, got you.
It doesn't get rid of the style. So to get rid of the style, unless there's, so by the sound of it, I'm doing the right thing, which is then choose no style, and I can type just freely in the box. So there's that. Is there any other questions coming through?
Steve had a question about, so who's following along in our other session with the knowledge checks about quizzes and showing the answers immediately. So I just explained the review options and the feedback, whether it's immediate or deferred.
Yeah.
Have I got one? Have you got a quiz in your site? If not, I can.
Possibly.
In fairness, if you just create one really quickly, it's just
Yeah.
those things more than anything else.
There's one from Anne that's come in that I'm not sure I know the answer to, and maybe you can have a quick look at about Tallis reading list things, and we can look at that as well. So quiz, add, and I think from the quiz bit that you're asking, if I just scroll down to, is it these bits here, the review options?
Yes. So by default, it will show the answers after the quiz is finished. So after the student has pressed submit all and finish. But if you drop down deferred feedback to immediate feedback, you get the review options during the attempts are shown, so that the right answer is shown immediately after they press that button. So they press submit for one question, and it shows them whether they're right or wrong with any feedback. So it's literally just that. Change it to immediate feedback, and make sure the marks and the right answer are indicated there. Simple as that.
One of the other features of a Moodle quiz that you may or may not know about is there is also with CBM, which stands for confidence-based marking. Now, I don't have much more on that myself, but it's something that if you're keen to talk about, I'd like to get to know more about it. But essentially, it's the principle of take a pub quiz. We've all been to a pub quiz with that friend. It's probably me. Where it's like, oh no, it's definitely 1935, definitely that. And then the correct answer is 1936, and it's like, oh, but because someone's like really sure, you go with them because you're less sure. And the idea of this within the quiz is that as a student is doing it, they have to kind of essentially say, I am 100% sure this is the correct answer. If they get it wrong, there is a larger negative effect to their grade because of their kind of confidence. And what you can do is then really kind of start to pull apart the student's understanding over a student's guessing. Because obviously, I think the statistic is if you're doing a multiple choice quiz about a subject that you do know nothing about, you'll get 33% right. And again, being that pass is 40, that last 7% is potentially doable. And again, I see Rob was around a minute ago. If you're doing something like paramedics, just passing may not be quite good enough, really, in terms of the fact that you're sort of doing a job that's going to require care. So that confidence bit will hopefully get the students to say, I don't know the answer, but I think it's this, over I definitely know this, and they get it wrong. And it gets them to reflect on their understanding. Now, again, that would take longer to complete. So if you're doing a timed exam, you may not want to use confidence-based marking for that, but actually it is a good feature of the Moodle quiz that there is that kind of side of it too.
Could I clarify a point? Anne's asked about the reading lists, and
Yes.
possibly I didn't explain that properly in the first place. Still add the reading list in the normal way. So Tom's showing you how to do that now using that option. And so by default, it will search against your module code to try and find a matching reading list. If you can't find one, you can select it yourself. But when you add that, it's automatically added to the resources tab at the top, which was the reading list tab. So there's only one way to add reading list now. There used to be three. It's just this way. So if you want to add a reading list, add it that way. But it's all automatically copied as well at the top of the page. So you don't have to do that as an extra step. It's just so students can find that reading a little more, as Tom showed, can find it more easily. And it has guidance about how to contact your faculty librarians in that tab as well.
I think from something else you mentioned earlier that people may not know how to do. In the assessments tab, you can see there's no summative assessment yet. I'm going to create a very quick Turnitin box. You don't need to know how to do this. We can cover this in the more advanced feature later tomorrow if you wish. But essentially, I'm going to add a Turnitin assignment. I'm going to fill in all my details. Catches up to me. There's my date, and I can change that if I need. Under tags, if I do the drop down here, you'll see it says formative, late, summative, and then you can also add weighting. So I'm going to say this is a summative assessment that is 55% of their grade. If I now do save and return to course, he says, and go back up to assessments now, There you go. Exam part 1, 55%. How many I've received, how many need grading, the start, stop date. And again, it doesn't matter where in the topic spaces, and like Mike mentioned at the beginning, it could be down in the last few weeks of the topic spaces. It pulls it to the top, adds it into that block so a student can come into a unit quickly, click assessments, and see what's there. If you tag something formative, does that display up here as well, Mike?
No, it doesn't. It was no, it's only summative that will appear in that place. Yeah, we thought about formative ones as well, but really, what the formative one should really be in the section. If you press the edit icon, you can specify a topic space which has supporting materials for assessments. So tagging them as formative doesn't actually do anything, but if you put them in that space and link to it, it's a good place to put your formative assessments. Good example. Previously submitted assignments, ECF documentation. So yeah, formatives don't appear at the top.
And just to demonstrate exactly what Mike's mentioned, so I've gone to my site sections down to assessment materials. This is where all my assessment materials are going to be. I'm going to copy the URL, go back to the top, click the pen. Some of you, depending on your faculty, may not have access to this, but in that case, speak to your online course developer and they can help you do it. I'm going to go down to, where is it? The assessments tab 4. So in here, I can provide a link to a topic space or any other resources. So it could be to another website if you wanted to send them to the unit module web search or something. Save changes. So now the student will see under their assessment tab, how to use feedback effectively. So that then jumps into the right topic space.
No, so the one just above that, which was assessment support materials, and yeah, so that'll link to that.
Sorry, there you go, and that jumps me to the right place. But essentially, yes, there you can set where that link goes within the blue pen icon and topic space for within that. So again, it was just a question of having the URL web link to where it goes. So assessments tab 4, and make sure you put it into that little box down the bottom and save it. Are there any other questions?
Another question about, so by the top of the module. Okay, so presumably we can add sections of a reading list. Yes, you can. When you add, Tom, if you take them through creating a reading list again, when you add it, it gives you the options of the whole list and the core text or sections within it. You can't, annoyingly, I was trying to add an individual book the other day. You can't do that.
See, I can't, sorry, I can't see it because there is no reading list aligned to this unit.
You can search if you give it a name, give the activity a name. So reading list, and press save and display. It will give you a search box, and that's where you select it. So save and display, and then it will take you to a search box once you've signed in. Just tell us your password, Tom. And so there we go. So it shouldn't do that. That's weird. Do a refresh of the page. It might just be a slight glitch. Oh, weird. What it should do is give you a search box, so you can search by unit code or list, and then when you find the ones you want, you then have a drop down, so that you can choose. Does your other one still work? Oh no, that wouldn't work either. Strange. I've seen yours do that before. Do you want to? Would you mind throwing me?
No, I will stop sharing from here.
I'm pretty sure mine's worked in the past. Just get to that point. And then that one. So, right. If I go to my test course, which is there.
While you're setting that up, Mike,
Yeah.
Elizabeth come in with a question saying, setting up formative assessment in section. I'd probably put that down more for tomorrow's session in advanced Moodle, where we'll be doing a very similar activity, but just looking at things like the quiz, questionnaire, lesson tool. So if you're not able to make it tomorrow, please drop me an email, and I'm more than happy to have that kind of chat about how to create a formative assessment within the Moodle sections. It's essentially about what is the topic that you want to do, what is it you're trying to achieve, and then we can pick the right tool to work for you. Because again, Moodle has a lot of different tools that can facilitate lots of different types of formative assessment. Does that kind of answer enough for you for now? Is that okay, Elizabeth? Perfect.
So it's working. It allowed me to log in. So by default, it tries to search for my matching module, but it hasn't got one in this instance. So I'll check for. I'll look for. I'll just go sports management. So I've then found a matching. I found the list I want with all my books in it. But if I want to link to a section of that, this one hasn't got one, which is really annoying. So that doesn't work. But if it did, I've seen them before where you have the core text and then other sections that have been set up within that reading list. You just switch to that particular section and press save, and then you link it to that subset of that reading list rather than the whole one.
Can I just ask an extension from that? Is that okay? If the whoever's created the links in there have only added certain links in the list, does the whole list still appear in the resources tab?
It will mirror what's set up. So if you link to a subset of that, then that's what will display at the top in the resources tab.
So if you had say you had like indicative reading and then you had week 1, week 2, if they'd put week 1 and week 2 in, that would be replicated in the resources tab, but you wouldn't have the indicative reading.
Yes, whatever you set up within this reading list activity will be mirrored. It's not really doing anything clever other than replicating the link.
Right.
So whatever you set up here will be replicated at the top.
So there could be certain elements of the list, if you've not embedded those, they could be missing then from a complete reading list.
It all depends how you set it up. I think most people just link to the entire list. That's how I've seen it done. I have seen people link to sections.
We've seen there's quite a few. I mean, I work in the library, so I'm aware that some staff link to specific bits of their list rather than the whole list in its entirety, and that's what I just wanted to clarify.
It's really a training need for those staff. Then we're just, within the team we support the reading list integration, but the best practice around that is really for, I suppose, for the library team to.
Well, the library don't really deal with that. I think it's more the online course developers.
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And there you go.
Well, I think on that note, we've got 10 minutes left. So if there are any other questions, please throw them now and I can share my screen again. But if not, I think from the basic side of Moodle, we've kind of covered between us a good range of getting started and things that you can do, and hopefully answered your questions for today. But if you do have more questions, you have your online course developers in faculty who can help with that in a more specific sense. And you have people like myself and Mike and the TEL team, ActDev, who are more than happy to take these questions and help either the technology side of it, how it actually functions, but also maybe how I'm structuring something to go into my Moodle site. We can do that too.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth says, if I want a complete reading list at the top in resources and just a section against a specific week, doing that won't undo the clarity of the complete list, will it?
I mean, just as something you said that if I did something in a particular week, then it would be mirrored up in the resources section. That's if I heard what you said was what you said. What I would actually want is my complete book list in the resources, but if I wanted just a section of it to appear against a specific week, I wouldn't want it mirrored up in the resource section. Or you're just meaning it's mirrored in the fact that it's in the book list?
We were asked by the library to incorporate reading lists into the baseline when it was created. So the only way for us to do that is to mirror what is created. So when we've worked with colleagues, they often link to reading for a particular week. So what you get is in the reading list tab is weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6 readings. They link to different sections of their reading list. And I think the library encouraged the full reading list to be made available there as well. But we have no control over mandating that programmatically. So we can only mirror what's created. So if for instance, in the example I just gave, if the lecturer leaves links to weeks 4, 5, and 6, but doesn't include the entire list erroneously, then we can't really help with that. It's kind of bad practice almost. So we just need to, as we've discussed, we need to encourage course developers to encourage academics to include the entire list alongside any specific weeks if they need to.
Okay, I mean, the reason is my book list has actually been done in a sort of thematic way. So if they want to research a particular subject, there's a whole load of books on that. If they don't, on another, because the unit I've got has a number of different people doing different courses. So some will want to look at some books and not at others. So it's not actually being created on a week by week basis. It's basically more around a sort of a topic basis. So if they're urban designers, they'll have the urban design sections, and then that's in other sections. And if they're interior designers, they'll have sections which are completely different. So my book list, though it's a very extensive book list, they'll only ever be looking at certain sections of it, but none of it is actually week by week.
We just encourage people to link to the entire list as well. I think from the interface within Talis, you can, from the individual week or a section of it, you can get to the overarching reading list. But in terms of clarity, it would make sense to post a link to the entire section list as well, I'd say.
I think from what's being said, it's that they make the whole list available, but where they may in one section post read this for week 2, they don't necessarily want that week 2 one to be added in as well. They just want the top level one there permanently.
That's what I mean. I want the complete one up at the top in resources permanently. And if I actually ended up wanting to add something just for a specific delivery, I wouldn't want that to then cause a problem with that.
I think it's something we'd need to talk with Hannah Porter about, because she requested the functionality as it appears at the moment and signed it off.
So that means at the moment I would not be able to really officially link a book into my week, because it might undo it. So I would have to find another way of doing it.
You can't. I couldn't find a way of linking to an individual book with the Talis.
I don't mean an individual book. I've got my whole thing set up in various sections, but what I want is to make sure that the complete book list is in resources. And then if you set up a section to do with a specific delivery, it doesn't end up making things confused up in resources, or deleting anything up in the resources, or double taking something. I mean, I haven't. That's what I'm asking, basically, because of something I said. I might be completely misinterpreting.
No, I do understand what you're saying. You don't want to. You would prefer it in the ideal world to have your full reading list being available under the resource tab, but then within the section below, you would like to link to individual book sections of books within that reading list, so subsets. And I can see the value of that, definitely, but it wasn't what was requested from the library. And we don't have any way of doing that programmatically at the moment, so it is what it is at the moment, I'm afraid.
So I will just have to direct them to look at the complete book list, but look down to section blah, and try and be clever by linking it. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
No worries.
What I'm showing here, Elizabeth, will hopefully, again, it may not work for you exactly, but from the 2 reading lists I created, and I know it didn't work on my site going through to the Talis bit, but essentially what it does is, so there's my entire reading list that will appear. And then any other reading list I create that goes to a section like you're describing will appear underneath that. So it won't lose one by creating a section. It'll just add an extra one. So anything that is essentially classed as a Tallis reading list will be populated into the resource section. So you won't lose it. You just might have 5 or 6 different reading lists. So one which would be your complete reading list, followed by those broken down ones. Does that help clarify a little?
So depending on how I label it, it will make it more clear if subsets appear underneath. Okay, thank you.
Just to round out, David has asked, can we record audio video in Moodle? Yes, you can. Like I mentioned in the chat, the best way forward is going to be Panopto, and it will be built into Moodle as well as having a standalone Panopto app, which again we'll kind of discuss once we know more ourselves. But we're having training with Panopto very, very soon, and our colleagues in Intel are currently, as I think Stephen Webb and Sean Sell demonstrated earlier today, are working hard to produce those resources and make information available. There is a little button I will show you very quickly. The plus side is it is quick. The downside is it doesn't have any of the functionality of like captioning and making things available that way. So if I do add an activity or resource, choose a label very quickly and do add, within my label, and again, anywhere you can use this editor, you have the microphone icon to record audio and the video to record video. So if I click the video icon, start recording, you'll see down the side in a second, there I am, side of my head, that's my good ear. I talk for up to 10 minutes, stop that recording. There's no editing, there's no magical stuff. This is a very, very, very quick and easy way of recording a video. You attach the recording, save and return to course. And then it will put, with a label, it then puts it directly in that topic space. And obviously a page or a book allows you to structure that slightly better. Right, edit and delete. So you can record directly in Moodle at the moment, but I would, depending on what you're creating and why, it may be better to record it on something like Audacity for audio, maybe within Relay at the moment for video, and then we'll upload it into Panopto going forward, because that's going to be a better way of using it. Does that help, David? Is that okay? That's all we've got time for today before the next session starts. So I will stop the recording, say thank you everyone for turning, and thank you, Mike, for your invaluable help.
No problem. Thank you.